Hello and welcome to Let Me Be Your Game Guide, a SÉANCE episode. These episodes feature games of the horror genre, so grab your salt and holy water as we voluntarily scare ourselves this week. I'm your host Emma, and with me are my co-hosts Rylan and Sean. Join us as we commune with the beyond and enter the gaming spirit world. For the remainder of this episode, let me be your game guide.
That's really good. That's
Thanks.
really good. Yeah.
Thanks. Means a lot. I'm so excited that it's fall.
Yeah, me too. It's like here.
Was the drive beautiful?
It was really nice. Yeah, because I went up and around. So it's all the back roads. And yeah, it was
Ooh.
very nice.
That does sound nice.
How was work?
We had a cybersecurity thing that wasn't a cybersecurity thing.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Sweet.
yeah. So
Shoot. Well,
Yeah.
at least it was non issue.
Elevate your heart rate.
yeah. Mine was. I was like, oh, fuck, is this gonna be one of those days that I like regret coming to work?
Yeah.
But
Well, thank goodness you would be there if something did happen, though.
yeah,
that's
for
true.
sure.
That's true. But
You're
anyways,
screwed either way, basically.
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah. I don't know. I'd probably feel more guilty if I wasn't at work. So it's a good thing. But yeah, spooky, just like the game that we're talking about today.
Yes.
Welcome to the rating episode of this game. Who wants to introduce?
Evil Tonight.
Oh
Dun
my
dun dun.
Yeah, we're talking about Evil Tonight this week. The rating episode. It's spoiler free, so
Yeah.
if you haven't played it yet, listen on. And next week we'll be talking about all of the spoilers and such. So yeah, but Evil Tonight. How'd you guys? I don't know why I'm like going off script, unlike usual.
Yeah, we
but-
practiced. We practiced this.
I know. I used up all of my podcasting during
The bonus episode.
during
Yeah.
the bonus episode.
Sorry.
Whoops. But yeah, so we'll just get into it if you want.
Yeah, this is Evil Tonight. It was
Oh.
a spooky game.
Yeah,
Yes.
please give me a little description of the game from your perspectives.
Well, you play as Silvia, who is a medium action hero, badass
A
chick.
medium extraordinaire.
Yeah, sometimes she's
With
a small or extra small as
sculpted
well.
body is what she says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're going through this haunted abandoned academy, and you are fighting the monsters. You're trying to solve the case. There's puzzles. You're exploring. It's spooky as all hell. And you, like you said, Sean, like Sylvia's so funny. She is like
it's very much like 80s, like superhero-ish vibes mixed in with Resident Evil is how I get it. Like,
yeah,
Oh,
very-
that's true.
I
It is
see
a
that,
survival
yeah.
horror
Yeah.
game as well.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, she definitely has some like, just really like, I don't know, this sculpted body, this tanned physique. Like, she always talking about herself like
She's very confident.
very confident.
I wish I had some of that confidence. Damn.
Well, Evil Tonight was developed by DYA Games and published by DYA Games. It's available for Windows and Nintendo Switch, and it released October 14th, 2021. What is the date today? It's October 16th.
Oh, we're close.
So close. Anyways, you can get this game for $14.99 when it's not on sale.
Yeah.
So, we'll just a little bit about the developers before we get into our accessibility report and our spoiler-free rating. I'm not sure when DYA Games was founded, but it was founded by brothers Alberto and Danny, or Danielle, but I see Danny in most places. On their IndieDB page, they state, "We think the atmosphere and settings are an essential part of any video game. Our visual style is influenced by 16-bit console games and 90s arcades. Our gameplay mechanics are a mix of old school and modern ideas, placing emphasis on smooth controls and taking advantage of new technology. Our soundtracks are catchy, if applicable, and relevant to the genre. I had a bit of trouble finding any information for Danny, but I will be posting Alberto's socials in the show notes. And they're from Italy, I believe.
That's where the story takes place.
It is, and I believe they are Italian as well. So credited for this game, of course, we have Alberto and Daniel Vilches, brothers. Alberto was credited for game design and direction, art direction, pixel art and animation, and story. And Daniel Vilches was credited for game design and direction, art direction, programming, sound mastering, sound editing, story, screenplay, and translation editor. There was also Koji Art, which was credited for the cover illustration, Peter Jones, soundtrack composer, Michaela Nottigal. Oh no, I should have looked this up. I'm sorry, Michaela. I really am. But she was the title screen viola player. Jason Napolitano from Scarlet Moon Productions was the music coordinator. Elisa Park was Silvia's voice, and Omri Rose did the screenplay and was the English writing editor. So that's about it for credits and the developers. We'll pop into the accessibility report real quick. I couldn't find one that was already created, so again, I created my own. I'm not an expert. I did my best. I probably made some mistakes, but I'm just doing my best, and I'm going to read this extremely fast. If you're interested in looking at it, I'm going to post it on our Patreon, which is at patreon.com/letmebeyourgg, so you can find it there. For controls, you can play it on gamepad with multiple buttons and 2 sticks, and mouse and keyboard with mouse and keys. Remapping controls, you can remap the buttons, you can swap the sticks, you can remap the sticks, you can remap the mouse and keyboard, and you can remap the game menu access. Controller vibration. Vibration is optional. Sensitivity. You can adjust the stick dead zones. You can also adjust the difficulty of play for getting started. There is assistance with controls. There is a setting that helps you aim. Reading. It's a moderate reading level, I would say. 14 years or older. I don't know if you guys agree with that. Not a ton of, you read a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of text, but it's not like super complicated stuff that I saw. So, I mean, you could go a little bit younger if you wanted to, but.
Yeah, I'm just going off the family. Oh, shoot. I had this last time. Family rating database. Family gaming database. This is their template. Nice. So, for subtitles, all speech is subtitled. For captions, the speakers are indicated. This would be by their little image being more colored than the other. It is a motion sick friendly game, I would assume. There were no 3D movements. And I don't think there was, maybe there was screen shake. Was there screen shake?
I think a tiny bit, but I don't remember that.
I also don't think that it occurred during gameplay at all. If anything, it was like a little cutscene where it's like the room is shaking or something, but not very intensely, I don't think either.
Yeah, okay. I think there might have been a little too in a certain part when you're
maybe
there might be a little
battles.
at certain that's what I was thinking is before the boss battles where she gets teleported.
Undetermined. I'll have my
well said.
Yes, indeed.
I think it's motion sick friendly, but I don't get motion sick when I play. So it is colorblind friendly. I do not believe there was any colors that you needed to see to play the game. For audio, you can balance the audio levels, the music and the sound separately. And then for audio events, there are visual cues for the audio events that take place. There may have been one time that something unlocked and it didn't show me, but I don't think, I might be misremembering.
I think all the monsters or most of the monsters in the game did have a little noise that was them being alerted that you're there.
Oh.
And there was at least one time where there was a monster that was based on the field of view that you have. It was kind of behind a bookshelf and it was actually right next to me. And since it made that noise, I was like, oh my God, there's a monster there. But
I see.
I could only hear that. But I would say that was a pretty niche need. Yeah. I think I could have played this game without the sound. No problem.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's just the speedy version of our accessibility report. That is the best that I could do with accessibility. We're trying with these smaller games that aren't as popular. They just don't get reviewed as much on those websites. So I did my best. And again, we'll post that on the Patreon, which is patreon.com/letmebeyourgg. For the other episode next week, there will also be resources that will be left on that Patreon. So feel free to go check it out. Now, what we've all been waiting for, let's get started on our spoiler-free game rating. We take into account general considerations such as length, challenge rating, and replayability. We also consider story and narrative topics, including plot, characters, world building, and content variety. Presentation topics, including graphics, sound design and music, and mechanics. And lastly, we consider the overall value of the game. So, general considerations. How long did it take you guys to play this game?
It took me 6 hours, 25 minutes, and 53 seconds to play this game because it tells you at the very end of the game how long it took.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't. Oh, I guess I did write mine down. A liar.
Yeah, I took a screenshot right at the very end. So
it took me the in-game time at the end of the game was 4 hours 52 minutes 26 seconds, but Steam showed me as 8.4 hours. So I spent like almost 3.5 hours just dying or reloading or things like that.
Yeah.
So
interesting. My Steam told me it took me about 7 hours, but I also played the game for about 2 hours before I started over. So the
speed run.
Yeah.
Dang, yeah.
My full run through that I played was 4 hours, 6 minutes, and 42 seconds.
What difficulty did you guys play on?
I played on balanced.
I played on balanced as well.
I played on casual.
No, that's okay. I just want viewers to know. So.
Yeah. And I think we can talk about that during the difficulty section, which is the next section.
Ooh, wow.
Look at that. Look what I did there.
What a segue.
I didn't even think about that.
So
professional.
For our challenge rating, we start at beginner, and then there is easy, moderate, difficult, and expert. But yes, the game itself did have 4 different difficulty settings. It starts at you default to balanced, which is the second level.
It's like the second one where there's like it's a challenge, but you can still play it and have fun. And then
that was incorrect for me.
Yeah,
I could not play it and have fun.
It went casual, if I'm remembering correctly, casual, balanced, hardcore, and then commando.
Yes.
Yeah.
I started on balanced. I played it for a while and I was like, I can do it. It's fine. Like I should give myself a little bit of a challenge. And then I was just so frustrated. I don't like to be challenged with combat in games. So if I have the option, I will play it on the easiest setting. So I had a ton of fun playing it on casual. I had a shit ton of ammo. I had a shit ton of healing things.
Yeah.
And it was just like I would die every now and again, but it was fine. Your stamina also didn't go down as much, so you could swing a ton of times over and over again.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to hear on next week's episode, like where it was in the game that you decided I need to go play on an easier difficulty.
Yeah. I'll let you guys know.
And to clarify, when you made that switch, you had to restart the game, right? You couldn't do that partway through.
Yeah, that was the one disappointing thing. Sometimes games will allow you to switch that difficulty mid-game. This is not one of them, so I had to completely start over. But luckily, because of the nature of the game, even though I had been playing for 2 hours, there's a lot of exploration that happens that when you start over, you can speed run through and still pick everything up and kind of do everything.
Sure, yeah.
I think it took me 20 minutes to catch up to where I was before.
Oh, yeah. That's nice.
But it was a little bit of a learning curve for me to like figure out where everything was, where I was supposed to go, what I could and couldn't hit. So challenge rating wise, I put it at easy. That might be because I played it on casual, but It was, especially once I switched to casual, it was just like cruising on through.
Sure.
But I still, I still died a few times. And the way that you save, if you're not paying attention, because you kind of have to pick when you save and go back to save spots to get things saved. And I would forget a lot. And then I just die randomly and have to start over.
I was a chronic saver. I would I went a little bit further down that hallway. Better go save. Like over and over and over again.
Oh, I can't wait for next week's episode when we talk about how many saves, because the game counted how many times you saved.
Yeah, so. I also was a chronic saver. Yeah.
It's the way to go.
Because there's times in the story where things change within the academy, and so when that change occurred, I'm like, oh, I'm saving. Like, oh, I gotta save. I hit two more doors. I gotta save. Like,
this is probably because I was also playing on casual. I was like, it's
La-di-da.
fine.
Yeah.
So I put it at easy. Again, you might see it a little differently because you played it on balanced, but
I will say, at least from the balanced difficulty that I played on, I would say between a moderate and difficult. I died a lot, and so it was really hard. And there was times where like I didn't have healing items for a little bit because I had used them all up. So yeah, there was some challenging points for sure. The gameplay wasn't difficult per se. There was some puzzles that, was fun and stuff, but yeah, there was just moments where it was pretty hard and challenging. So
I gave it between an easy to a moderate, leaning towards the moderate, I think. Like, I thought the combat was pretty straightforward. Like, there weren't that many different tools that you had, and the enemies had some variation, but it was a lot of sort of the same thing, it felt like. You did need to explore to get like those healing items and ammunition to make sure you had what you needed. And it did start to like get, I feel like the game was just big enough where if it was a little bit bigger, I would have been a little lost, but it was okay. I didn't think the puzzles were that hard. A lot of times it like highlighted the important word for you. So that was a good clue. The really challenging part in this game, I think, was the management of your resources. Like, you could not be just shooting randomly. Like, I was worried about if I was going to miss because that bullet was expensive. I was worried about taking too much damage in the fights because those apples were limited. And also like the stamina that you had in the combat, I thought was a really clever little management game as well in the combat, so that you were not just spamming. Like, you had to be careful and like even dodging. You had to make sure that wasn't going to like make you go, whoa, for a minute where you're going to get hit.
Yeah,
so
that definitely happened to me, especially early on in the game. I was like, oh, I'm going to just swing my blade. And then I would immediately get taxed out. And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah,
so you kind of have to like hit,
fast.
Run away, go back, hit some more. And yeah, you kind of get the hang of it. But
Well, here's the deal. There's a huge difference between playing on casual and playing on balanced. I don't know what it's like going from balanced to, what was the next one? Hardcore. But if it's the same step level, I can't even imagine. Because when I went from balanced down to casual, I was just like, I had a million bullets to shoot, and I could kill like 2 enemies before even running out of stamina. I had so much, like, I didn't have a care in the world. So just for anyone out there, that there is a lot of combat, but if you play it on casual, you will have a good time still.
That's interesting. Like, I feel like for me, I would like that less. The managing of those resources brought so much tension to the game that it felt really thematic to me. Like, I was like, especially my first few hours playing it, I was like, whew, I need to take a break. Like, I was stressed. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go in this room. What the hell is going to happen? Like, I really hope I don't need to use like my first aid kit, which is the best one that heals you all the way. Like, I was stressed every step of the way, and I kept going back to save. Or if I took too much damage in a room, I'd be like, all right, I got to reload my save because I can't afford to use that many apples or bullets.
Yeah, no, I felt the same way. Like, yeah, like you were saying, it brought a little bit of tension, and like it really asked a lot more out of you. And so that added another challenge to the game. And so, yeah, it was definitely like, I was almost eager to go into rooms sometimes because I'm like, oh, I might get like a health potion or a tonic or something or some bullets. But at the same time, you're also scared. You're like, I don't know what's gonna happen. So
see, I think I'm so story driven.
Sure.
I was so excited to unravel the mystery. I started getting frustrated when I couldn't make it through. I'm really not a combat girly.
No, that's fair.
It's all right. Yeah, it's all good.
But anyways, moving on to target audience. The ESRB rating is T for teen, which is 13 and up, for blood and violence. And I would say this game is suitable for anyone who likes unraveling a mystery or, as you've described, the more high stakes survival games.
Yeah, I would agree. Especially if you're, like I said before, like a Resident Evil enthusiast or something like that, especially like the 1, 2, 3. It has that same kind of vibe, but it's like a top-down, 16-bit game. So reminds me of like old school Golden Sun on like the Game Boy Advance, but Resident Evil style.
Yeah.
So
I think that this is a sort of game that you could even be a lot younger and play, I think. Because like the puzzles weren't crazy difficult. Like I think I wrote like 10 plus or maybe even like 8 plus. Like you might not know exactly what's going on, but you can play the game and explore and have a good time. That being said, like there's firearm use. There are like really cheesy like blood explosions type things. So there's definitely that content warning is appropriate, I think. But I think especially with the different difficulty ratings, like you could go young.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Yep. If your parents are all right with it, then we say it's cool to play.
That's a good thing to say. Yeah.
It is kind of scary though. There's actually
there are jump scares.
There are jump scares.
There are jump scares. Yeah.
Well, replayability is our last section of the general considerations. How replayable is this game?
I think it kind of sets itself up to be replayable. It's almost like that Resident Evil kind of thing where you could play it over again and try the harder difficulties or see if you could do it faster on a balanced setting or something. I believe within the story there's probably not much difference unless you do change the difficulty. But I think that I might do it again and try to play on the hardcore version or the commando version and see what the differences are and try to get through it. So
yeah, I feel the same way, especially like there's only like 8 achievements on Steam for this game, and they're all basically like, I mean, one's like complete the game or whatever, but all the rest are like a challenge mode, like complete it with a fast time, complete it without dying, without saving, which is kind of the same thing. But
yeah, without healing.
Yeah, without healing.
I have the list if you want me to read it.
Go for it.
So it's beat the adventure in hardcore difficulty mode, beat the adventure without dying, beat the adventure without saving, beat the adventure without using healing items, get a time rank A, find and collect all ballerina figurines, and beat the adventure in commando difficulty mode. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I want to go back and at least play. I want to try playing on balanced.
Yeah, you know what to do now and where to go.
Yeah, and I think I could do it. But I think it's super replayable just for the sheer fact that there's so many different achievements and it's a quick run through once you know what you're doing.
Oh yeah,
so
totally.
Yeah, I really.
Before you commit to balance though, wait for some criticisms I have at the end of this episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the numbered rating section. We rate these between 1 and a 5. So starting with story and narrative, let's talk about plot. I gave the plot a 4. I really liked the way that this story unraveled. I liked all the kind of like mystery behind everything, but you're learning about, it's so hard to not spoil things, but the kind of the haunting that you're trying to, I don't know, fix?
Cleanse?
Yeah, you're learning about why it's happening. And the ending, I'm going to talk about it during next week's episode because I don't know, I have some feelings on the ending that I just think I think there's a debate to be had about the ending of this game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So we're going to debate about this. We might agree with each other, but so I gave it a 4. I really enjoyed it.
I feel weirdly like maybe a 2.5 for this. I know, like the plot was not nearly as good or as fun as I thought it was going to be as it kind of went through. Like, and it also like really took a backseat to the gameplay. I felt like I think I would have really enjoyed having like more story moments throughout the game, especially like at the, like, I mean, obviously at the very beginning, there's some story, but then like I feel like there's a big stretch before you get much more story, and really kind of understand what's going on. And during that time, I was like, is there a story to this game?
I think it probably also heavily relies on the order that you go into the rooms, because depending on how many diary pages you find and when you find them pushes the story forward. So if you just happen to go in a bunch of rooms that don't have diary pages, because you find those throughout the game, that unravels like the background of the story. I just wonder, I don't know if that's how it happened for you, but
I don't know. I would suspect, because I feel like I found all of them because I was pretty thorough in my explorations, but and I also suspect that either you can only get them in one order or they just give you the next diary page in the right order, because my story appeared to be linear.
Yeah, I also assume even if you find a different diary page in a different order, I think it's given out in the,
which is the way to go for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. I would say excuse me, I would say probably a 3 to 3.5. I also really enjoyed the story. The ending is debatable. But I also really enjoyed the story. The diaries did help kind of push the narrative along, and you kind of got a bigger backstory of what occurred to cause the haunting or the mysteries that are occurring at the academy. And there's also some other characters who jump in who kind of push things along as well. So 3.5, I thought it was pretty good. It definitely had some cheesy moments for sure.
Yes.
Definitely 80s 90s cheesy moments, but it was still pretty good.
It had the vibe of like a 90s cartoon kind of, which I did appreciate.
For sure. Yeah.
And moving to characters, what were your guys' ratings 1 through 5 on characters?
I would give characters a 2.53. They were fun. You don't get a whole lot of backstory about a majority of them. But it was interesting what was said about the characters, and particularly what was occurring with one of the characters, which is pretty important. So yeah, I thought it was pretty fun. And yeah, they were cheesy moments and just kind of things that draw you to the characters. But overall, I'd say it was pretty fun. It wasn't like super, I mean, it was serious, but it wasn't super serious. So
yeah, I didn't think like the characters had like a lot of, I don't know, I don't want to say they didn't have personality, because they did, but like they weren't very complex. I don't feel like like even there was a point throughout, which we'll talk about next episode, but like I thought I had gotten the wrong vibe about a character, and then that was incorrect. I had gotten the correct vibe. But that being said, like I did think that Silvia, the character that you play as, was just so awesome. Like she was so funny and cool. I just want to like share some quotes that she had. She was like, okay, maybe this is a hot, not a hot take, but like maybe this is a deep cut. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe this is a deep cut, but Silvia kind of reminded me of like one of the characters in Totally Spies. Do you guys know what that is?
Oh my God.
No.
I know what you're talking about, but I could not.
Okay. Or like
do a recap, or just
or
like a quick.
Or like Bulma from Dragon Ball, where they're like, she's like, no. Okay. Well, okay. So she's like confident and tough, and she will kick your ass, but she's also like girly, and like in Totally Spies, for instance, they're going to go do the secret mission and like kick butt and like have high-tech gadgets, but it's going to be like a lipstick that's a laser. And then they're going to go shopping afterwards. Like that's basically Silvia. So like one of the things that she says is she's explaining to one of the characters how she's a medium. And they're like, oh, so you're a medium. And she's like, well, I'm also a small and an extra small sometimes. Which is just funny. She also says, hold on. She also says at one point, she's talking with a character and she says, I totally would have acted the same in your shoes, which are super cute, by the way. Just like things like that. She just like goes off on a little girly tangent. So funny to me. And like like Sean said earlier, she's like, and I've got a sculpted body.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. I gave the characters a 3. I thought they were all right, but again, Silvia was awesome. I thought she brought a lot of life to the game. But the rest of the characters were very flat. You don't really find out a lot about them, and they're like kind of annoying, but
they weren't really in the game a lot either, which is kind of weird because there were kind of a lot of them. I felt like it wasn't like 2 characters; it was like 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a majority of that group, you really don't get an understanding for. I mean, there's one at the end.
Yeah.
But the rest of them are like, they pop in and then they leave. And then they pop out and then they leave. And it's like, oh, okay, well.
There's 2 characters whose names I just don't know at all.
Oh, yeah, I have a list, so
we'll talk about it.
Yeah, actually, when they went through the credits, I was like, who's that person? Like, I didn't even realize that.
Well, moving on to world building. How did you guys enjoy this world and how it was built?
I would give it a 3. I thought it was believable, and it does get you pretty immersed into the space and what's going on at the academy. And the story behind it all kind of brings it all together too, in my eyes. So I would give it a 3. The gameplay definitely helps, but also the lore and story that is built upon it is just kind of brings it all together. So I think within the academy, it was well done.
Yeah.
I felt like it was like a 2, maybe like a 2.5, because I didn't really understand what Silvia does. Like at one point she tries to explain it, but she doesn't really go into a lot of detail. And I'm like, it was kind of interesting, but I want more.
Yeah.
Like I felt like this story was kind of like a self-contained like episode of a TV show almost. And I'm like, I want more of this. But there wasn't really anything there. You know, it kind of took place in the real world, except for maybe it didn't. I have no idea.
Yeah. I gave it a 3. I liked the location and how everything was mapped out. I loved that you went from, this isn't really a spoiler because it happens right in the beginning, but you start at like this decrepit, abandoned place, and then you transport into almost like the haunted realm of this space, and all of a sudden it's like brand new. It's like you've traveled back in time, even though that's not really what's happened. You're basically in just this other dimension. And I just thought it was really cool. I can't really tell you why I gave it a 3 because there's not a lot going on, but I liked it.
That's fair. Yeah.
And lastly, in the story and narrative section, we have content variety. Ta-da!
This is going to sound like I like hate this game. Actually, I love this game. This is like one of my favorite games that we've played, I think, but I feel like this is a 2 for me. Like you kind of just did the same thing. You went through the spooky place, you stabbed or shot some things that were mostly trying to do the same thing to you, and you did the puzzles, which the puzzles had some variety, but it was mostly like you need to bring the right item there or you have to like select things in the right order.
Yeah.
Except for there's one maybe that you push things, but other than that, like it's kind of samey. Like you kind of had this, like after you play like an hour of the game, you're kind of doing that same stuff the rest of it. But that being said, it did work for me. Like there wasn't a ton of variety, but I loved it. It worked for me.
Yeah. I would agree. 2 for me as well. Because it's not like the previous games, where we're like getting transported to a new world and we're fighting new things and solving new puzzles. It's like the puzzles were pretty basic for the most part. You bring something over, you're done. Mm-hmm. Or there's some minor thing that you have to do while you bring the thing over and you're done. Like it was pretty straightforward. So there wasn't a whole lot of variety, but I agree. I had a lot of fun playing this game. So whatever it did, it worked well. And so, I enjoyed it.
And yeah, like 2/3 of the map were like kind of the same. Mm-hmm. I felt like, at least to me. Then you kind of had 1/3 that was a little different, but it wasn't that different.
Yeah. I also gave it a 2. Not a lot going on. I mean, like it's all been said, but I also loved this game, and you'll see it in my rating because it makes no sense as to the other ratings.
It's greater than the sum of its parts. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to be serious with the with each section and rate that fairly, but just because we give low ratings in these sections doesn't mean we didn't absolutely love the game. Which is that's so cool that you can have a game that maybe lacks in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
Like when you're looking at it from a very critical point of view, but you can still play it and have a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Moving on to presentation. We're going to talk about graphics, sound design and music, and mechanics. So we will start with graphics. I gave graphics a 3. It was just very, I mean, it was functional and it did its thing, but it wasn't crazy. I liked the style for the game.
I think for me originally, like when Sean, you suggested this game, it was probably like a 2 for me. I was like, I don't like the way this looks. But then when I was playing it, it felt a lot better. Like, and I did like the way it looked. Like, it might be a 4 for me, honestly. I feel like that like pixely style really worked for like the gameplay. They complemented well, and I did like a lot of the non-strictly graphical things they did. Like they played with light a lot in this game, where you had like a sphere of light like around your character. So you could kind of see what's near you, but beyond that, you can't see. But of course, you're also in like a spooky haunted evening time, evil tonight. So there's like lightning flashes once in a while, so you can get like a glimpse of like what's down the hallway, but only for a second.
Yeah.
I thought things like that were super like smart in this game, because like it was very thematic to have those lightning flashes, but it also was like a sneak preview, whereas normally you'd have to like inch your way closer, wondering like what the hell is out there in the darkness. Something that did bug me though, and I don't know if you guys experienced this too, but like there were so many like, I don't know, windowsills that I thought were doorways over and over again, like to the bottom of the screen. I'm like, oh, a doorway. It was not a doorway.
Yeah. The only way I was able to tell if it was a doorway or not is it had 2 dots on the outside of it.
Oh.
So
that's the only way I could tell too, because the first like, I don't know, hour I was doing the same thing. I was like writing into windows and I'm like, what is going on? And then I saw those and I was like, oh, those must be the doors. So.
Yeah,
that never changed for me the whole game.
Yeah, if you looked, the doors had like 2 little dots on the outside of the opening, and the windows didn't have the 2 dots.
Yeah, I did appreciate the level of detail that they could get with the pixel graphics. Like, it was very charming looking, some of the areas, but there was also that downside of like some of it I can't tell what I'm doing.
Yeah. I would give it, a 3.5. Like it, even in that pixely style, it really worked well for the game and it was a lot of fun. And to kind of piggyback on that lighting aspect, I think that added another level of tension too, because you could only see like, oh, there's somebody over there, but only when you saw that lightning flash, and then you're like, oh, like, okay. So it just added another level of tension while you were playing, which I thought was really fun. So,
or like when you shoot the gun, it like flashes like that too.
Yeah.
Which like, of course, that's like, you know, what it looks like in the movies when you shoot a gun too. But that was cool, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. I thought it worked well though. Yeah, when I picked this game, I'm not like a super spooky game player. Like I don't get into all the creepy games. So I was trying to find something that would be fun / in the holiday season. So in the spooky season. So but I really enjoyed it. Even with the graphics of the way they were really smooth. And everything looked great in that aspect of 16 pixel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the details of the characters and the enemies and everything, it was kind of crazy that they were able to get that much detail with this kind of 8-bit pixelated style, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving into sound design and music, I don't know what I usually say after that, but what do you guys think about the music?
I thought the sound design was effective. Like there was a lot of like spooky ambience, like the grandfather clock that's tick-tocking, and the thunder noises and things like that was really cool. There's like a spooky piano theme that plays at different parts throughout. There was only one song that I remember as like, oh yeah, I like this, and that's like the third boss song, which we'll talk about later. So like the music wasn't like, I'm always looking for bops when I'm playing these games, you guys. There was only one bop in this game, but the rest of the soundscape, I guess, like added to that whole spooky, haunted feeling very well. I thought it was effective. So like a 3 for me.
I would say 3 too. I really enjoyed the ambiance and the feeling that those extra sounds gave while you were playing the game. And so, just to piggyback on Rylan, I really enjoyed it. But it wasn't like, there's some bangers in here. It's just kind of like a lot of ambiance and different sounds and things that you were hearing from the atmosphere. So,
yeah, I also gave it a 3. And again, I feel like my rating was purely for sound design because even though when I was playing, I liked the music that was playing, I can't remember it at all.
Yeah.
Which not a terrible thing, but again, it just wasn't very memorable. It worked and it didn't bother me while I was playing, but the sound design was spectacular. I loved the little sounds of your footsteps as you were walking and like the noises that the enemies made, the noises that when you were pushing something, and like you said, the lightning and
creaky door.
The crash, the breaking of windows. I don't know if is that a spoiler? Maybe I won't.
Only if you say that it is a spoiler, but
the breaking of windows, which isn't a spoiler. But yeah, there was just a ton of noises that added to the tension of the gameplay. So I gave it a 3. I think if there were more bops, it would have been higher.
Man, I almost want to give it like a higher score actually, because like to me, like what made this game great was just like the way I felt while playing it. Right. And like the sound 100% contributed to that. Like that was what had me playing this game, being at the edge of my seat, being like, I'm having fun right now, bumping it up to a 4.
Bravo.
Officially.
Nice.
Brava.
Oh.
Is that Italian? I don't know.
It sounds like it.
Anyways.
I'm sorry, Alberto.
And Danny. Our last number rated section is mechanics. I gave mechanics a 2. And it was purely because of combat. I didn't like that you only shot in the 4 cardinal directions. Even though you did have that like aim assist that would point you in the direction of an enemy, it was kind of frustrating that I would have to try to move to the side to actually hit an enemy. I couldn't shoot diagonally, and there were moments during the boss battles that I felt like I could not get to a spot without getting injured or hurt. And I felt like there were flaws in the ways that the boss battles were structured. But maybe that was just me. So I gave it a 2. There wasn't a lot to the mechanics. However, I will say that there's not a lot needed. Maybe I'm being a little harsh because I was sour about combat, but
I think I would give it a 3. Maybe a 3.5. I don't know. I thought it was pretty well done. I would agree though. It was a little bit frustrating that you couldn't shoot it in a diagonal way. And I was also frustrated because I had the auto lock on, so it would do the whatever enemy was nearest you, which sometimes wasn't always effective, particularly in the boss battle. So I agree with you, Emma. There was definitely some moments, particularly in the third boss battle, that I struggled because it was like constantly trying to turn me and I couldn't point in the direction that I needed to. So I could have switched that to a manual assist and I could have just done it that way and it probably would have been fine. But that was a bit frustrating. Overall, though, I thought your movements were smooth. The gunplay was smooth. You also have a knife that you swing. That's your first weapon that you start out with, and that was pretty well done. It's more of like an arcing motion, so you can kind of hit some of those people that are in that diagonal space. But yeah, overall, I think it was pretty good.
That's true, and I might be being a little harsh. I could probably bump it up to a 3 and be okay, because you can have your knife equipped, or you can have one of the guns equipped and use a different button to still swing your knife, which was really smooth. I am just bad at fighting things, so it's probably a little bit of user error, but there were some really cool mechanics that were put into this game. I think I just got a little frustrated at some parts, so I'll bump it up to a 3.
I think that's like a good point though, because the controls of the combat was something that I put down as like, this is a little funky. I don't know if I've played a game where the combat works exactly like this. Like you have to hold down a button just to be in combat.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not like the buttons don't necessarily make sense to me in the way that some other games I feel like are more intuitive. So it did take a little while. By the middle of the game, it was all fine with me. And I did like the option between manual and automatic for that aiming. I actually switched a lot throughout the game for what the situation was.
Yeah.
I did like the mechanics of exploration quite a bit. It was very easy to move around the world, which was great because it was tense to do so. I felt like there wasn't really, things kind of worked how you expected them to. There wasn't any outside of, I guess, the doorways that apparently I didn't understand. The difference between a window and a door. Other than that, it was pretty easy to tell where you could go, where the enemies would be going, what was obvious to interact with versus something that you had to hope there was an ammo there. There wasn't really any challenge as far as moving through the world. It's just getting used to the combat for me.
All right. Well, that concludes the presentation section and the numbered rating part of this. But we have one more thing to talk about, and that is value. Is this worth $14.99?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would pay for it all day long. So
yeah, this has been my favorite game that we've played.
Oh, really?
So far, yes, this was my favorite one.
Wow. It's up there for me.
I had to really think about it, but because it was either that or Cavern of Dreams, and I don't get me wrong, I love Cavern of Dreams.
You hate Cavern of Dreams.
I love Cavern of Dreams.
I'm telling by 9.
Yeah.
But I just had so much fun playing this game. So I'll just take us into our final rating portion. I gave this a 3.7.
Nice.
Wait, do we do it out of 5 or do we do it out of 50? For some reason, I thought we added them. I don't do an average. Edit this part out. What'd you say your score was?
3.7.
I'm at 3.8.
What the hell?
$1 off.
Okay, I was gonna do a 4, and then I forgot to mention for the mechanics and the combat is a lot of it is just this is probably not in the casual, but a lot of these enemies have way too much health.
Yeah.
Way too much health.
Their health did not go down.
Oh my goodness.
I feel like I was still having to hit them the same amount. I just lost less stamina when I was hitting them. So
yeah, that was my beef. Towards the end of the game, I was like, this is getting a little tedious. I'll be frank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Some of the even some of the minor ones, it took a while to clear them out, and then you got to the even harder ones. And it was like, holy cow, I'm having to use a lot of resources for this one person. So some of them, I would just run around. I'm like, I'm not even fighting those things. I'm just going to run around them. Nope.
Smart.
Yeah. What's your final rating?
I would say 3.75. I'll go in the middle. I thought it was very good, though. It was a really fun game, so.
I really want a sequel to this game.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So much.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I want Silvia's next adventure. I'm on board.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely. Well, this concludes the spoiler-free rating episode for Evil Tonight. Please join us next week for the spoiler-filled discussion episode as we dive into the details of this game and all its hidden gems. If you haven't played the game yet and this sounds like something you'd be interested in, I hope you find time to play it before tuning in next week. Please go and give the podcast 5 stars if you liked what you heard, and give us a follow. I was checking our followers, and it's so exciting to see that we're getting more. So
yeah, we're pretty cool.
Yeah, it's whatever,
What do they say on YouTube? Smash that follow button. I don't know.
Hit the like and the bell.
Smash that like.
Yeah.
I'm cutting that out. No, I'm not. Anyways, you can also email us with comments, questions, or constructive criticism at letmebeyourgg@gmail.com. You can also send us any game requests if there's something you want us to review. You can find us on Instagram at letmebeyourgg, and like I've plugged many times, our Patreon, which is patreon.com/letmebeyourgg. We have a TikTok. It's Let Me Be Your Game Guide. We may or may not use it right now.
But it's there.
But it's there. Thank you so much for listening. We can't wait to see you next week. And thank you so much for letting me be your game guide. GG, y'all.
Have fun with Evil Tonight.
It's Evil Tonight.
Spooky. It's business time.
It's business
It's
time.
business time.